Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. I'm Frank Granito and I'm joined in the studio today by Kevin Coleman. Kevin, we've got a big show coming up ahead of us, a lot of FCIAC playoff to recap. We'll have AJ Simonowski joining us shortly as well. But what a great start to the semifinals last night.
Ooh, we saw two fantastic games, and the first one was a thriller. I mean, talk about came down to the final seconds.
It was really just great soccer in the boys' games. We had two great girls' games we'll take a look at. Of course, 4 quarterfinal matchups that were played for volleyball. AJ Simonowski got to see a couple of thrillers as well with the field hockey. I mean, the playoffs are now in full swing. We got championships coming up tomorrow, but compared to last year where we saw more on the blowout side, this was competitive athletics across the board start to finish.
Yeah, and talk about that second game, Ward and Greenwich. You know, on paper, that's the #1 seed going into 5 seed. I think people look into that saying, this is going to be a blowout. But I got to give credit to those Mustangs. And Coach Ottavio has to be so proud. Even though they came on the loss column, he has to be so proud of his players because they played so hard, scoring in the first 13 minutes of a beautiful free kick to start the game off. And you really felt like we had an upset looming. But the Greenwich Cardinals proving what they do best as the #1 seed, coming back and winning that game. But got to give credit to the Ward Mustangs.
And all of those games being close matches, but what really stood out was as great an effort as we saw from the underdogs in the lower seeds. It's a 1-2 format across the board, at least for the 3 championships we have set. In volleyball, the quarterfinals, all top 4 of the seeds advanced. You don't want to downplay what or how well those underdogs played, but a little interesting seeing the tournaments play out the way we expected them to.
Yeah, we get to see a rematch in girls soccer. St. Joe's and Richfield. We get to see another rematch of last year's FCIAC final. I'm excited for that game. That's going to be a lot of fun between those two teams.
Let's start, though, with our first semifinal game now. We take a look at the boys' soccer. Game 1 was between Trumbull and Danbury. We were there for the coverage. Trumbull holding off a late Danbury run to secure a 3-2 win and advance to the championship game Thursday night. Matt Restrepo, Jason Weinstein, and Thang Dow scored for the Eagles. And as you mentioned, Jonathan Campbell with a game-saving save as time was expiring. Preserve the undefeated season for now and advance the Eagles with an opportunity to play in the championship game for the first time since 2011. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from last night. A few surrendering 36 goals, which is good enough for 2.11 goals against. They are the only team as this one fired towards the net. It's in! Number 22, Matthew Restrepo. One played into the box. Nascimento coming up and he responds. 2 minutes later, it's Nascimento. This year when you won 4-1, as they've got an opportunity here coming up on the through ball. Shot towards the net, and it's in again. Loose ball in front, fired on goal, and it's in. Tang Dow comes over. And the senior captain buries number 3. Throwing coming. Cleared to the side for a moment. Now towards the box. On cage, it was fought off!
Wow. That's going to do it. What a finish, Frank.
So again, we get to see that cave. Before we get to Jonathan Campbell, though, let's look up front for Trumbull now, Kevin. Back-to-back games, they've scored 3 early goals. And they're almost a little confused out of play in the second half, which really left the door open for Danbury. But most importantly for Trumbull right now, the big names are producing.
They are. Matt Lancia, Jason Weinstein, Connor George really played great. Those are your top 3 up front for the Trumbull Eagles. And in the middle, you have Thang Dow and Matthew Restrepo. And boy, Restrepo's goal was a beauty. And you got to talk about Weinstein's goal, too. That's not an easy angle to shoot from. He's got Skelton coming out towards him on a difficult angle. He buries it in the far post. Difficult shot to make. Credit him for the goal. It's a world-class finish for a top striker in Weinstein.
We talked a lot about Matt Skelton, how he had been the hottest goaltender in the conference. Jonathan Campbell, very experienced. The senior captain came out and had himself a tremendous game yesterday. Let's talk a little bit about that last save. I mean, you could almost talk more about the shot from Rodriguez because we couldn't believe that it went on cage, but the composure, the ability to stop that ball with time expiring, and to maintain your focus through the full 80 minutes.
It's not easy. It's a tough. This is why this playoff is so much fun, especially for boys and girls soccer. The soccer playoff in general. That's why it's so much fun. These 80 minutes are high intensity soccer. So much going. You see the shot right here. I mean, just to get the shot off itself on a tough angle, shoot it near post, and Campbell just punches it away. I mean, the skill level for both these players is incredible to do that. It's not easy.
Incredible shot. Now, Trumbull was awaiting the winner of our second semifinal game. That was between top-seeded Greenwich and number 5 Fairfield Ward. Ward jumped out to an early lead on Jonathan Schuster's free kick goal in the 8th minute, but Greenwich scoring the final 2 goals in that game. Sebastian Hernandez tying it up just before halftime, and Alejandro McLean's second half goal on a free kick, proving to be the difference in that one, as the Cardinals will advance to the championship. But let's take a look at some of the highlights from that game.
Keeper for the Cardinals, barking out orders. Free kick coming towards the cage. He buries it. No doubt about that one. The Mustangs with an early lead. Opportunity here. Trying to slow it down. Through ball back his way. Working towards the middle with the left foot. Sent towards the cage. Skelton can't get enough of it. And he buries it in the left corner. 1-1 the score. It is McLean. Alejandro McLean, the senior. Shot towards the right side. He buries it.
Matt Skelton wasn't ready. He was still barking out orders at the wall. Great job by McLean to notice that.
So number 1 survives a scare from number 5. We've now got a 1-2 matchup in the conference championship. They played to a 0-0 draw back at the beginning of October. I don't think that'll be the case come tomorrow night, Kevin.
I don't think so either. I think we're going to see a couple goals tomorrow night. I mean, these are 2 excellent teams, well-deserving the 1 and 2 seed, well-deserving to be in this championship game. Well-fought semifinals from both teams. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to see McLean and Sebastian Hernandez, 2 playmakers for Greenwich, going up against almost a 3-headed monster in that 3 attack that you have up front for Trumbull and Matt and Chris Lancia, Jason Weinstein, and Connor George. The 3 of them combined is dangerous itself. So that back 4 for Greenwich has to be careful.
And there are a couple of contrasting styles throughout this game. I think the depth of Greenwich will play a huge role compared to Trumbull having a very senior-heavy class, and that's who they're going to rely on to score. Let's talk about James Johnson, the sophomore in goal for the Cardinals, who's just playing beyond his years right now.
And that second half for him was very impressive. He really showed true class, a lot of maturity for a sophomore coming in as a starter for the Greenwich for the number 1 seed. And this is just not only that, but it's great experience for him. As a sophomore playing in an FCIAC final, I mean, he's got 2 more years under his belt. That's a good sign for the Cardinals.
Now, if Hernandez and McLean are held in check, who's the secondary scoring option you think that could present itself for Greenwich?
Oof, that's tough, because if you shut those 2 down, I mean, they do have depth. You're right, Frank. They do. But those 2 have so much good skill that they can beat players. We know how good that back 4 for Trumbull can be, but I think those 2 guys, you know, we're going to see them, at least 1 or 2 of them score a goal tomorrow night.
These are the only 2 remaining undefeated teams in the conference. They're 1 and 2 seed. Greenwich gets the nod by virtue of having 1 more win. Does Greenwich really come in as the favorite, or do you see this being a toss-up of a matchup?
I see it as a toss-up, actually. I've really liked what I've seen from Trumbull. I think they can really go up against this Greenwich team. And last night, you saw Ward. I like what they did. Good formation, good attack in the first 15 minutes or so. And really impressive. If Trumbull can do that for the full 80, or maybe even 70, we could see a 2-1 lead for Trumbull. I really do think this is a toss-up between these 2 teams. I'm really excited for this matchup.
You're going to like what I do here, and I've been hanging out with you enough. I really think this game is going to be won on the wings. It's the playmakers and setup men from out wide who are going to produce for those players in the middle and present the opportunities that will give us the ultimate difference maker in the match.
Oh, you're learning your soccer. There you go. You're learning. I like that. No, I absolutely agree with you. And you've heard me preach during these broadcasts that you have to spread the field. You have to play out wide. You have to switch the field. You can't just have everything clogged in the middle. I think it's what we saw with Greenwich in the first half. They had everything going through the middle instead of playing out wide. Second half, they made the adjustment, and they played out wide. You saw Trumbull do that. They were kind of congested in the middle, but they played to that outside of Chris Lancia. He makes the difference. He plays balls into the 18. He's the playmaker on that right wing for the Trumbull Eagles.
He didn't come up on the score sheet last night, but Lancia obviously around the football plenty. We're going to take a break here, Kevin. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have you back in just a moment, but I'm going to ask you to leave. We're going to bring A.J. Simonowski on now as we start to break down the field hockey championships last night from Brian McMahon right here on the HAN Network.
This is now 44 years I've been in this business. Digital came along. After I was in business for about 6 years, I had to totally reinvent the business. So I had to make a tremendous investment in my business. And Milford Bank was there for me. I don't really just consider Milford Bank a bank. I consider them a trusted partner in my business. My name is Jim Wilson, owner of Milford Photo. I choose to bank with Milford Bank.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Sign up now for InSports Passing and Receiving Positional November Soccer Camp, scheduled for November 19th. Sessions are available for U13 to U14, U15 to U16, and U17 to U19. Featuring college coaches from around the region, this is your official home of Connecticut's Olympic Development Soccer Program. For more information, visit insportcenters.com.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter, and I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
We're back here on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. Frank Granito in the studio. I am joined now by AJ Simonowski, who was at Brian McMahon last night covering the field hockey semifinals. We got to see two great ones in soccer, AJ, but I think the advantage went towards field hockey last night. You had a couple thrillers.
Might have to go to the first game between Norwalk and Wilton as one of the better games I've seen in a long time. The Warriors came out on top in overtime. And it came down literally to the final play of regulation, an untimed penalty corner. And Caitlin Urowich is able to get it in for the Bears and send things to overtime. The crowd went crazy. The players went crazy. It was really a special moment.
And we were in the booth, and I could hear Josh Fisher was in the next section of the press box, and he actually went crazy as Norwalk had scored the goal, saying, explain to us what had happened. It sounded great. It looked great. Here are the rest of the highlights from last night's game along with it.
Goals from these excellent opportunities.
Here's Rosen on the insert. To Ward. To Caroline Farrow, and she scores. And Rappaport dribbling all the way down well into the circle. There's Farrow again. Shot, and she scores. Fed down, back to Mastriani, to the center. The shot stopped away by Likely. In front, and the Bears get one back. Regulation has expired. Here's Mirabile. To the top to Yurlowicz. Yurlowicz, the big shot, and she scores! Off the insertion, up to Ward. Ward over to Farrow. Farrow, the big blast, deflected away. Farrow again, sent down, and it rolls in.
So Wilton has reserved a spot in the FCX championship, the number 1 seed, needing almost the full overtime scoring, which is 56 seconds remaining. Did Wilton play down to Norwalk, or were the Bears much better than they got credit for this year, AJ?
Absolutely not, Frank. Norwalk is entirely for real. Their offense, more of a quick strike, fast break type thing. Elizabeth Dresdowski was breaking that down for me in the booth. They want to get out in front of you and run. And that kind of an offensive approach just wasn't the most viable one against Wilton's defense.
Now, of course, Wilton had a 2-0 lead. Norwalk came back from it. We saw the goal there at the end of regulation. Obviously, if they got into a similar situation, they can't afford to let up when they play this Staples Wreckers team next week, on Thursday, excuse me.
Definitely not, and it was something we alluded to on the broadcast, questioned whether or not Wilton was still playing to win or simply playing not to lose, and that may have ultimately been their undoing. It comes out okay for them on the score sheet. They do get the victory in overtime, but they're going to have to play a full 80 minutes if they want to deal with the Wreckers on Thursday.
They are the defending runner-up in the FCX. They won the Class Double-L State Championship last year. Is there an added pressure to this Warriors team, you think, being the number 1 seed and the favorite this season?
I think there may be some pressure there for the Warriors, but I think this could also be, they could go into this with a sense of, this is our time. Darienne's out of the tournament. They handled Darienne in the States last year, and this could be something of a coronation for these Warriors.
And you mentioned Darienne out of the tournament. In our second semifinal game, Staples' Megan Johnson scored twice for the Wreckers as number 2 Staples, in her words, finally beat the 3rd-seeded Darien Blue Wave. Johnson scored in the first 5 minutes of both halves and allowed the Wreckers defense to take care of the rest, limiting the Blue Wave to only 2 shots all game. Let's take a look at the action.
Juggling along, fed out to the near side. And they score early, do the Wreckers. Looked to me like it was number 9, Gabby Vega, who finally got the stick on it. Now the inbounds to Giannunzio. Giannunzio feeds across to the top of the circle. The shot is, and there it is. Abby Hancock ties us up. 21-58. Kirby on the reset. Ball rolls into the circle. And Staples gets one less than a minute into this second half. And the Staples Wreckers have defeated the Darien Blue Wave by a score of 2-1.
So it'll be Wilton and Staples tomorrow night at 7 o'clock from Brian McMahon. The matchup that really jumps out off the screen, and we were just talking about it there, the high-powered offense of Wilton and the suffocating defense of Staples. 21 shots for Wilton against Norwalk. Staples' defense limiting Darien to 2. Something's got to give here, AJ.
Frank, I said it yesterday on Nutmeg Sports. This entire FCX field hockey tournament has been something of a coin flip, and that proved itself out last night, and it'll prove itself again tomorrow. I could easily see this game being 0-0 at the end of regulation and going to overtime, if not beyond. To use a phrase of mine that I think is a favorite, it's the unstoppable force of Wilton versus the immovable object of Staples. I couldn't even guess who's going to come out on top.
You mentioned it could end up as a 0-0 tie. That was the score during the regular season when these two teams met on September 30th, playing into that scoreless draw. Wilton comes in the 1 seed. Staples is actually the only team in the conference to not lose a game this year. Similar to what I asked Kevin before, is there really a favorite? Do you consider one team the underdog? Or are we just going in there saying, okay, you've got the 2 best teams in the conference, throw them in a ring, and one person's coming out?
I think you come down to have it being the 2 best teams, but at this moment, I would have to give just the slightest edge to Wilton. They have a lot more experience on the roster. They have been here before. Staples has not been in this situation in the past. Only 2 seniors on the roster and a sophomore in the net for the Wreckers. The youth can be their biggest asset, but it could also be their downfall if that's the way things go.
It should be a lot of fun. That game is set for 7 o'clock tomorrow night at Brian McMahon. You'll be on the call with Elizabeth Dresdowski again. Excuse me. We hope we can have you back on Nutmeg tomorrow, though. We'll be doing a preview show from Norwalk as we get ready for the soccer championships.
I will try and be there. Who knows where I'll be during the day, but hopefully I can run over to the home of the Bears and say hi.
Great job again last night. A lot of fun. We're going to let you go now. We're going to take a break, and Kevin Coleman will join us as we look at the girls soccer scores from yesterday and the volleyball quarterfinals right here on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! You know! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on. I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Trust your technique. Bring it back.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking. To a partner that makes small businesses feel big. Where community comes first. Where high-tech tools go hand in hand with a human touch. Where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver. Where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
For unique and special holiday gifts, come to Touch of Sedona, a spiritual boutique located in the heart of Ridgefield, Connecticut. We have plenty of unique pieces, including Native American and equestrian jewelry, crystals, candles, incense, and books, as well as an ever-changing showcase of artists, intuitive practitioners, healers, and lots more. Happy holidays from Touch of Sedona, 452 Main Street in Ridgefield. Visit us today. Open 7 days a week.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
On Election Day in Connecticut, the HAN Network has you covered with real-time results and analysis.
Will your town vote for Trump or for Clinton?
And who will be representing you in Hartford and in Washington, D.C. HAN's news reporters and editors will be out in the field talking to the candidates, collecting results, and we'll be breaking it all down on air with live local analysis you won't find anywhere else.
Watch Connecticut Election Night 2016 live
November 8th at 8 p.m. on HAN.network and Frontier Communications channels 600 and 1600.
Back on the HAN Network, this is Nutmeg Sports. Frank Granito and Kevin Coleman in the studio today. Donald Eng is off because it's Wednesday, but a happy birthday to Don. I'm especially feeling it with Don right now. I got 3 out of 4 on this day in history this morning, so big day for us. But a bigger day for the St. Joe's girls and the Ridgefield girls soccer teams. They advanced to the conference championships. St. Joe's shutting out Wilton 3-0 yesterday. Ridgefield taking care of Staples 2-1. It's another 1-2 championship game. I think this was the tournament we were most confident, though, Kevin, in expecting the top 2 teams to advance.
You're right, we did. I think we expected these 2 teams to face each other again. I think we picked West Hill to maybe make a run at it. Unfortunately, they got knocked out in the first round, but these were 2 great semifinal games. Of course, St. Joe's had a little bit of a scare in the quarterfinals. Came back with a vengeance in this game, really took care of business, winning 3-0. And then Ridgefield, a little bit of a scare in this one, but I thought Staples actually played really well against this team. We saw Staples last week against Ward, and this is a Staples team that really played well against this Tigers team. So, unfortunately it didn't go their way, but I think the 2 best teams are in this championship game.
And both teams getting scoring from the players who need to be scoring for them. Jessica Mazzo and Alexis Mason scored in a 1-minute span. It literally was 46 seconds for the Cadets early on against the Warriors. At that point in time, it's unlikely you're going to be able to come back against St. Joe's. If you're chasing 2 and you've got to try to go on the attack, you're susceptible to that counterattack. That's where the 3rd goal came from, where Lindsay Savko scored again. Savko, Mason, and Mazzo have just been so strong this year, but the Tigers are no slouches on offense themselves.
They're not. They definitely have a lot of weapons as well. Of course, they played each other this year. St. Joe's winning 1-0. That was at their place. I'm looking to see what Ridgefield does in this game to come out. They have to come out strong, knowing that they're a bit of an underdog coming in this. They already lost St. Joe's earlier this season. So coming into this game, they're trying to defend their FCAC title. So I want to see what kind of formation they come out with, what kind of attitude they come with. Do they really come out fighting in the first 10 minutes, or we'll see what happens. But that's what I'm going to be looking for in tomorrow night's game.
They played earlier in the year. St. Joe's won 1-0. This is a rematch of last year's title game. Ridgefield winning that one 2-0. That was the only loss that St. Joe's suffered in all of 2015. So there's a little extra motivation in this game for them. If you look at the Tigers last night, Jasminski scoring her 15th goal of the season in the first half. Alexis Damron getting the assist. Those two have just been tremendous up front. The difference maker, though, comes on a PK due to a handball in the box. It's tough to blame it as a careless mistake if a ball hits your hand, but credit the Tigers for capitalizing on the opportunities they're given.
Right, it's part of the game. It happens, and just well-placed ball. Wrong place at the wrong time for the Staples Wreckers, and a well-placed PK by Franklin. Tim Murphy spoke to her after the game, and PKs in these type of games are tough. You got a lot of pressure on you, and she said that with these PKs she blocks away anything, the crowd, she blacks it all out, and she goes in and she finishes, and that was a great finish by her. It's not easy to score on PKs in a game like that.
You've got two of the top scoring offenses in the league. Which defense could prove to be the difference maker and swing the advantage to either St. Joe's or Ridgefield in this one? I'm
going to say St. Joe's. We saw them against West Hill earlier, and I've liked that back four all season for St. Joe's. They've looked really strong. It's just a well put together back four. They got good chemistry, whether it's seniors or even underclassmen who are back there. Really well put together back four. And Aurora, great keeper for the Cadets. She's another clean sheet added to her resume last night, and she's going to be good. And obviously Middlebrooks, again, another great keeper for the Tigers. So we're going to see two great keepers tomorrow, Middlebrooks and Aurora.
That game will be at 5 o'clock from Norwalk High School. You and I will be on the call. We'll have coverage live starting at 4:50. Let's look at the girls' volleyball quarterfinals. All four games being played yesterday. Top four seeds going 4 for 4 in those games. Greenwich defeating Darien 3-1. Then 3 shutouts behind that. Ridgefield over Staples, Stanford over St. Joe's, and McMahon over Trumbull. Let's start with McMahon. I thought this was a huge bounce-back win for the team after suffering a couple of late losses, including one to Greenwich in the last game of the regular season. They get a chance at a rematch now against the Cardinals.
Yeah, you mentioned that last game against the Cardinals. Great win for them to bounce back. This is a good Trumbull team, and to win a clean sweep is really great to them. Coming back like that and beating them, that's a credit to them. We're going to have a fun rematch between those two teams.
You've got Greenwich and McMahon. That'll be a big one. Obviously, a player to keep an eye on is Meredith Pellegrino. Then the 2-3 matchup, Ridgefield and Stanford. Ridgefield won this original meeting 3-2 back on September 19th during the season. Katie Linekin, Elizabeth Middlebrook, Caroline Colonel. I think there's too much power up front for the Tigers, but credit the Black Knights, who have been very successful this year. I think we'll see another 5-setter here.
And we saw, this Black Knights team has been great down the stretch, too. You can't forget that. There's a reason why they're the 3 seed. And, this is going to be, you said it, I think it's going to come down to 5 sets again. Ridgefield does have, they're a powerhouse. And Stanford, I think, is the dark horse, but I think they're going to use that to their advantage coming into this game. But you're right, it's hard to choose. Ridgefield is a very talented team. They've always have been, and we saw them earlier against Ward. And Stanford, they're hot right now. They're coming in, I think that's going to be a game where Ridgefield needs to be careful.
Greenwich and McMahon will play at 5 p.m. The highest seed in the tournament has the choice of which game. Greenwich chose the first one, followed by Ridgefield and Stanford at 7. Those games will be played at Fairfield Ludlow. Championship game will be on Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock at Fairfield Ludlow. The HAN Network will be there to bring you that one. Kevin, quickly before we step out, it is Game 7 of the World Series tonight. You got the blue on. Are you pulling for the Cubbies?
You know it. Wave the W flag tonight. Go Cubs, go.
Should be a lot of fun. Kevin, thanks for coming in today. We'll see you tomorrow at Norwalk. We'll have Nutmeg Sports special for you at 2 o'clock from Norwalk High. We'll have coverage of the championship games for soccer, field hockey, and both soccers and field hockey, 5 and 7 o'clock. And as always, Coffee Break with Kate Chaplensky at 11 a.m. Yankee Fisherman, 1 o'clock with John Kovac, all right here on the HAN Network.